Political revolution of 2016 with Brexit and with Trump was people voting for change, real fundamental change. And here we are, in the middle of the following year, and that change isn't happening. We've seen frustrations from the judiciary, and we would expect the liberal media, we would expect opposition parties to try and frustrate Brexit. But what I think is so frustrating on both sides of the pond is there are people who masquerade as conservatives in order to get themselves elected and are now, damaging the attempt for us to get a clean Brexit, stopping the president getting his agenda through Congress. And I think there's something very fundamental at stake here. It is people's faith and belief in the whole democratic process.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, over there they call them Tories in the Labour Party. Over here we call them Republicans and Democrats. There's a story on the front page of the newspaper the president calls the failing New York Times this morning, talking about 2020 opponents to the president from Republican senators like Ben Sasse. But add someone like Ben Sasse and Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, moderates inside the Senate. They're spending as much time or more resisting this president's efforts as he leads their own party.
Yeah, I think there must be now growing real genuine anger amongst millions of people who turned out to vote for Trump. In many cases, people who had not voted Republican before or perhaps had never voted in their lives. They engage with the process. They've got a president that is holding faith with them, that wants to carry out the agenda, and yet it's Trump's own side that are stopping these things from happening. And I would have thought that what needs to happen in both the Republican Party here and the Conservative Party back at home is when it comes to candidate selections, there ought to be a weeding out of those people who are not playing for the same team.
Yeah, I mean, at Brexit, the vote happened, but what happens after that is what really matters, just like Election Day here, whether the agenda moves forward. What can be done to ensure the movements continue? What's the most important aspect?
Well, I think the most important thing is the way the people feel. The people that voted for Brexit, believe you me, a year on, if we had that referendum again, we get a much bigger majority in favour of it. So people want this change to happen. And similarly here, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We've been talking with Brexit about having a point-style immigration system, just the same debate that's now happening here in America. People want these things to happen, but it's our political class on both left and right that are stopping it. And I have to say that if people don't get what they wanted and they start to lose faith in the whole democratic process, that is bad for our whole society. You're
right. The elites in the political class, they control the media as well, which is creating this impression that everyone's running away from President Trump. But I think if you're on the ground, just like you saw in Brexit, it's actually the opposite. When they try to block what they voted for, they get even more frustrated.
I think that's right, and I have to say that all the attempts to try and paint the Trump campaign as somehow being run and influenced by the Russians, it may entertain the liberal elite living in Washington, but actually out there in real America, it just makes support for Trump even stronger because they can see that this is actually an attempt to effectively frame the president.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.